to the Shepherd Staff 2018 year-end webinar covering the membership and scheduler modules today. And my name is James Bowman. I am a software support technician here at Concordia Technology Solutions Software Support. And as you can see, my email address and phone number are listed on the screen in case you have any feedback you would like to go ahead and share after this, or you can type it up during this, I suppose, webinar today. And I should note that all microphones and phones have been muted today. So if you do need to get a hold of us, go ahead and type a question in the question box there. My manager, Mr. Rod Kiles, is going to be answering those questions, and he is a veteran of the department of over 18 years. So chances are, if you ask a question, he's either gotten it before and will know an answer right off the top of his head, or he will take some time to dig into that for you, and will go ahead and make sure you get an appropriate solution. And as you can see, his email and phone number also listed on the screen. Go ahead and take advantage of those should the need arise. All right, so go ahead and jump into our overview today of this webinar. And the class agenda includes this overview. We have a discussion of the primary source material covering membership and scheduler. Then we'll go ahead and have a review section. And finally, we'll have a quiz and a Q&A session at the end. And let's go ahead and delve more deeply into those. Now, the overview is going to be a broad overview of all the year-end of things that are true for all the modules relating to year-end. So that overview is going to touch on all the modules, and then after that, we're going to rebuild and optimize the database, and we'll talk more about that. It is a very important thing to do once at the beginning. We're going to discuss backing up your database today, which is vital, and you'll be doing that multiple times during the course of your year-end procedure. And then we're going to go ahead and deal with membership. Specifically, we'll deal with membership records that need to be updated before you run year-end, statistical reporting that needs to be submitted or to either your church council or your synod and your church body there. And the membership records that we will talk about will feed into that reporting, so it's vital we get all that accurate. We'll talk about the optional cleanup utility, and then we'll go ahead and talk about scheduler. And of course, scheduler is a completely optional. If you use the module, great, then go ahead and follow the procedures. If you don't use scheduler, then completely ignore it and don't worry about doing anything year-end in there. Then we'll go ahead and delve into our review of all the material covered, generally relating to the broad across the spectrum year-end review there. And then we'll have a brief quiz and a Q&A session will be available at the end. But please go ahead and ask any pressing questions that you have by typing them in the Q&A box there. All right, so let's go get started today. And sorry about that. I meant to turn off my camera and I turned off my microphone instead, so I should be back up now. We'll go ahead and delve into the overview that applies to all the modules when you're doing year-end. So the following is going to apply to all of these modules here: scheduler, finance, contribution, attendance, and membership today. And it's important to note that there is no formal year-end utility in any module except for finance anymore. So that's the only one where you have to actually run a specific utility. So for today's course, you'll just have to do a couple bookkeeping, I shouldn't say bookkeeping, database tidying up for the end of the year there. All of the reports now have dates that I'm aware of. There might be one odd one out there that isn't dated, but by and large, they'll all be dated today, so that helps. The cleanup utilities that we will discuss today in both scheduler and membership are completely optional, depending on the needs of your church. I would go even further than that to say they are not recommended to be done unless you have very good cause to run them. So don't think that because I mentioned them in the year-end, you have to run them there. And if you have more questions, go ahead and reach out to us by typing that in the question box or calling us or emailing us. And then I kind of touch on this with scheduler, but I'm going to expand that today. Only follow the year-end procedures for modules that you use. So if you go ahead and use attendance and contributions, for example, but don't track any membership, well, that's silly. If you just use membership and attendance, but don't track any contributions or finance inside the Shepherd staff, and don't worry about those modules there. Only worry about the modules you actually actively update with information. All right, now let's go ahead and run the database rebuild and optimize found on the main screen under utilities. Rebuild and optimize this database. And it will just confirm we would like to do this. And I'll go ahead and say yes. It is important to note that all of the other users have to be logged out of Shepherd staff before this can be run. And this should be run on the computer that houses your actual Shepherd staff database. And what that means is that you'll want to go to your server or the workstation that is acting as a server, but actually houses your database, not just a workstation that remotely connects in to the database there. And we'll go ahead and run this here. It is checking our database for any damage that might have been introduced due to by corruption. And if it finds it, it will do its best to repair that there. And depending on the size of your database, it might take longer to do that check. If it cannot repair the damage, it will display a message and then go ahead and call us in that regard, but though that is rare that happens. And then it will also compact your database to make sure it's in the smallest, easiest to use version of that there. All right, so now that we've done that, we'll go ahead and discuss the beginning of membership here. And we have a few changes that we need to verify. So today we'll be checking to make sure that all of our people who were born in 2018 are entered in. All of the people who died in 2018, people who were baptized, confirmed, divorced, married, or were removed for various reasons are up to date, so that our reporting is up to date here. So to begin, we'll go ahead and handle a birth. And I always pick on the Abbott family here because they're at the top of my list. So we'll go ahead and click Show Household. And this will give us a snapshot of their household as it stands currently. We'll go ahead and hit the Add Person because we are handling a birth. And I always just stick with the name John. It's pretty straightforward for their birth there. And we will only need to worry about the fields that have blue headers here at the bare minimum. So I will go ahead and just say that he is a child, and we'll go ahead and do active participation. We'll change this to associate because his parents are members. But this is completely up to whatever your church would like to designate there. You could actually type in a custom item to your list. So say your church wants to have more membership options in this. What you do is you type it into the field and you hit the tab key on your keyboard, and this window pops up and says it's not in the list. Do you want to add it? If you hit yes, it will go ahead and appear on every person as an option on every person record list for membership code. And then if you'd ever like to remove it, what you do is you bring this drop-down menu and you use the arrow keys to select the one you want to delete. And once it's highlighted, you hit the delete key and it says it's on the list. Would you like to remove it? Yes. All right, so go ahead and take that off and deal with associate member. We'll say received by baptism, and that was last Sunday. All right. Now, we technically don't have to add any age information in, but I will show you how to do that as well. All of this is going to populate from the parents' records. And it'll come over to personal and family, and we'll do a birth date. Let's say it was born on the 14th last year. Okay, so there we go. And all the blue fields are filled in. You can see that they're all filled in here. There's no blue fields. Okay, so we now hit OK. And they have their son. And we'll say yes. Okay. And that error that popped up was just because I've done this several times. So I've added John on and deleted John off, and it was just letting me know that there was a duplicate record there for that. But you wouldn't have to worry about that in your application. Or if you did, you just have to make sure, go and resolve that issue. So now we've handled the birth, which is fairly straightforward. Let's go ahead and look at a death today. And again, I'll just pick on the Abbott household here because I have them up. We'll go to Jacob here and edit person, and we'll change the participation. Well, we will go ahead and add in the removed by, and we will put in death, and We'll put in the date remove. We'll leave it as today, though of course you could move that back a while in 2018. Let's choose a random date there. 2018. And then it automatically changes the participation, though it leaves them as a member there, which is what we'd recommend leaving. And you notice that it has also the visual cue of the strike through the name and the red background there. So we'll go ahead and hit OK on this. And it's going to give us a reminder of things to check. Make sure you remove the person's name from label names and household records. Remove this person from any static subgroups. Remove this person from any present activities, or change the participation to experience. Or if this person's envelope number is a joint envelope, remove the person. Jacob does not fall into any of those categories today, so we'll hit OK. And his participation did change to deceased here. So we have added a birth and a death. Let's go ahead and add a baptism in as well. Go ahead and add John. I think I might have already done this here. I did not. I put received by baptism and the date received here. And as soon as I put the received by in for John, it automatically checked this baptized, but it doesn't assume anything about the date, because we don't want to assume that he was baptized on the date received, even though in the vast majority of cases that is correct. There are some corner cases out there that we respect, and so we do mark this as baptized because of here, but we don't put in the date. So it's a fairly easy thing. Just go ahead and click on this and put in the date there. And there you go. He is marked as baptized. One thing to note regarding that baptism is if it was at your church and it was recorded in your physical book for your church register, we would go ahead and ask that you also update your baptisms tab of your church register. I went a little bit quickly there. That's up here under the quick icon CR, church register. And this pulls member information from membership, but it won't pull in baptisms automatically. And the reason that is because this is meant to be a digital version of your physical book. It's not meant to mirror what's in Shepherd Staff. It's meant to mirror what's in that physical book. So if the physical book is completely updated in Shepherd Staff, which is completely updated in Church Register, then it's all on the same page. But we don't want to assume that again, because that wasn't what it was designed for there. So just go ahead and put in the name. We'll put in John Abbott, and that's the wrong John Abbott. John Abbott. Okay, great. And then baptism date. Now it pulls that baptism date over just to say, hey, you put this on the record. It should be here as well. And you put in the father's name, the mother's name, all that good stuff could be pulled over. Let me actually cancel this, close this, come back here to John, and put in, you could actually put in the father or mother's name here, and it will pull it over. So I'm just going to do David and Sue, and then we'll leave that blank for now. We'll just go ahead and update his record, and let's come in and add him for a baptism here. John Abbott, and it pulls in David and Sue. So it does pull in information once you've told it the name in there, but just know that this is not automatically done unless you take the initiative to go ahead and put the name in here. Just because we put baptism on his record doesn't mean it's going to automatically create a record in the church register, though it will pull in as much information as it can. Once you've taken the initiative to tell it should be there, then it helps you fill that information in for you. And we'll do Ken Williams. Perfect. Now we have that record in there, the church register. Now we can go ahead and move on to confirmations. And just note there is also a tab for confirmations here. There's a tab for funerals, weddings. I'll only be adding one in for the baptism there, but just know that all that's in there to reflect what happened in your physical book. So now for this confirmation, we'll come to their daughter Grace, edit person, and go ahead and mark confirmed. And the date confirmed here, let's say May 13th, 2018, she was confirmed. Excellent. And again, if it wasn't the church register, go ahead and add it there. But if not, this is all you really have to do here. First communion may have been then. We'll just say it was. Of course, we don't assume that, but it is a likely occurrence there. that many of our members do use. We'll say it was also that day. And then just go ahead and save that, and that is a confirmation. Then we'll go ahead and handle a divorce, and we'll go ahead and do a divorce for Sue and Dave, excuse me. And what you would do in this case is you would go ahead and move Sue and any of her children that are coming with her to a new household, and change any names and salutations. As you can tell, I've done this before. So so David's the only one with the label name and salutation, but you just go ahead and check that once you're doing a divorce as well. So to go ahead and handle this today, we will add a new household, and we'll call this household. I believe her last name was Page. Let me just check that really quick here. Suzanne. Information. Personal family. Porter. It's Porter. Gotcha. Go ahead and add in a new household. Porter. Household type. Household type is single. I believe it's single parent. Okay. And then mailing address 234 Main Street, to Columbia, Missouri, and then 63109. Okay, and you can add in a phone number and any of that applicable information. Then once you have that in there, or you could also do the address unknown button as well if you don't know the address for the household. That's going to put in a very standardized address format, so you can easily recall that in the future. And then we'll come over here and go ahead and save this, and we'll refresh, and then we'll go ahead and open up this household and move Suzanne and one of her children over to that household here by opening up their record and actually changing this household here to Porter. Make her the head of household. There we go. And she did disappear, and we'll say she's going to take John with her as well. Person, John, say Porter. Okay, so now let's go ahead and refresh. Let's find the Porter household here. There it is. Let's open up the Porter household and make sure everything is correct here. Normally we'd go ahead and put in a salutation for form letters and label name styles there as well. Let's make sure everything else is correct. Contact looks good. Let's go ahead and edit her. Sure. Say she starts using her maiden name again. Go to contact. That looks good. Personal family. Divorce was put in here as well for David. A spouse's name and the date. Oh, this is from last time. I apologize. I should have updated that. We will say she was divorced on September 14th. And you just put in, choose the option divorced, David, her husband, or Dave, whichever one you prefer. And then their wedding date was in there as well. And then we'll go ahead and save that. And that's how you handle a divorce in the system. And now let's go ahead and roll that back and handle a marriage, which is going to be very similar to that. We would say we have Suzanne Porter, and you would just go ahead and open up her record, and you would move her to her husband's household, Dave, and say spouse. And then all this was pre-populated with the destination house there. And let's change this to Abbott. And there we go. We've updated that, and we will move John Abbott to mother's new household there. Perfect. And once we update this, they are back in business. What we should do, though, is update, hit the wrong one. Update the salutation and form letters here, David and Suzanne. And then Mr. and Mrs. David Abbott. And then let's do Dave and Sue Abbott there as well. Okay, so now we have that updated Let's go ahead and check. Everything still looks good here. Perfect. Now all we have to do is refresh and change the marital status to married, David, and let's add a new wedding date of, let's say this happened December 7th this year was their second wedding date there. Now, if you did want to record on the prior wedding date, there are several ways to do that. You could add them in under Other here, add in a new option, by just typing in first wedding date, hitting tab, and it'll go ahead and ask you to add it, and then you can put in the date of September 14th. There we go. So this way you can track the first wedding dates there as well inside the system. Note you do only have 3 columns here per person. So if this fills up, you might want to go to the activities, skills, and training section as kind of an overflow. But I would start here, though there are several different ways you could track it or not track it at all. Then after this, go ahead and check. Everything else looks good. Hit OK, refresh, and make sure we've got David in here. So he is still married to Suzanne. We'll put in the new wedding date here. 19, December 7th, new wedding date. And then, of course, you could add in the original wedding date here if you would like as well. First wedding date. And we'll put in September 14th. There, perfect. So now we have them updated for their marriage. You should note that you double check all the transfers and other removed by reasons that you might have had here. So that would be death, discipline, dismissal, erasure, excommunication, inactivity, move, no transfer, other, and transfer. Make sure that you go through all of those in turn and handle them just as you would a death. Well, not just as you would a death, but in a similar fashion by adding them that removed by date, and then make sure they're taken off everything they should be taken off of, like static subgroups, etc. For all of those there. And then once that is done, we can go ahead and move on to reports. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to mention, and that pertains to when you do remove people by death or transfer, etc. It is very important for the reports we're about to run that you leave them as members if they are members, or non-members if they are not members. Some churches do definitely prefer to mark all removed people as non-members at that time, but I would recommend against that before you run your reports. After you've run your reports, then you can go ahead and make any of those member to non-member changes. But for the reporting purposes, just leave it be as members if there are members that are removed now. So go ahead and close this. And I believe there actually is a warning on that as well. Let's open Jacob Phillips here. And let's change it to a non-member and save it. It says removed members should not be marked as non-members. This person is a removed member, not a removed non-member. Marking the former member as a non-member will throw off your annual statistics and reporting. So there is a warning in there. And again, you can definitely do it after you've done the reporting statistics just by hitting yes, but right now we'd ask to do no on that here. So let's go ahead and cancel, and nope. All right, so now we'll go ahead and run our annual reports. And there are 2 of those to run. The first one is your church body reports. And those would be like for ELCA, WELS, LCMS, Methodists, Episcopalians, all that good stuff here. Here are all the denomination-specific reports. And it's a warning basically saying that they all have their own specific requirements here. And then we're just looking at the LCMS. Lutheran, it would be LCMS, ELCA, and WELS that we have in here. And you might be wondering how it knows not to include the other ones. And that is found on by this here, the Lutheran edition, which is in turn set from settings. And then you go to, I believe it's system, and the edition is what determines that. So if you say I'm here at Catholic Church, then we'll pull in all of your Catholic reporting, Presbyterian, etc., United Methodist in there. But if you say you're Lutheran, it will give you all of those. And of course, you have to restart Shepherd staff once you change edition. So pull in membership, reports, and we will choose the LCMS congregational report and select that. And this report might look kind of daunting once you deal into it, but hopefully it will make sense to you. The criteria for how these fields are determined is drawn directly from the LCMS. This is what they want us to report, or they want us to build into our report so you can easily give them the information. I should mention that if you notice something here that doesn't seem to make sense, or that you know has changed from the LCMS reporting, please go ahead and verify that change, or ask your question about, hey, this doesn't seem to make sense to me, to the LCMS. And then once you've confirmed that with them, they will reach out to us, and we'll go ahead and make that change there. As long as you mention, like, hey, I was going through Shepherd staff that's produced by CPH, and I noticed this doesn't make sense, and they'll either explain that to you or they'll agree with you, and then we'll make the change in that regard. If you just call us regarding those changes, we don't really have the power to change them, so we're strictly going off what the LCMS does. So just keep that in mind when you're if you notice anything that looks a little bit off in this report here. So we'll go into membership, and it first begins with the total baptized membership. And this is not just new baptisms, of course. This is everyone who's baptized this year. And then new baptisms this year are 0 there. And you can go ahead and see, why is that number 0? Okay, it's the member option is selected. The baptism is check marked. And the year of baptism was in the report year. So we should have John in here, and he should fit all those criteria. Let me see. Okay, let me drag this over here. So we have member, baptism. Aha, it was baptized this year. Let's change that. Let's say he was baptized last Sunday of that year. I think that still falls within the birth date here. Does. Okay, perfect. So we'll update his record, and then we'll close this to update it and open that again. And there we go. We have John is now on here, and you can see his name listed there as the reason. So we'll say okay. And then of course adults will be listed there. Were they applicable? And these question marks are a great place to go if you are thinking that a number doesn't make sense. They will show you the steps that the LCMS, basically what the LCMS required us to come up with, and the steps we followed inside the software to come up with them. So if you have a question about these steps, you can definitely call us here, but they're really trying to get the information the LCMS wants there. That's what it comes down to. Total confirmed membership, gains and losses here. So you have an overarching gains and loss, and then you have these here which say baptized membership marked as confirmed, who are confirmed during the report year and whose age was greater than 17. For adults confirmed, juniors confirmed, etc. And then if you click on this information, we should have Grace Abbott there. There she is. Perfect. And of course losses as well for all of your deaths. And I think, why is there nothing here? Baptized members, marked as confirmed. Aha, so this is baptized members. I'm not sure. Jacob should have been marked as baptized. He was. Okay, so let's delve into why Jacob didn't show up here then. So let's say deaths. Baptized members, aha, he was not confirmed. So that's why he doesn't show up here. So the LCMS is only looking at your baptized and confirmed members who died here in your total losses. And again, that might not make sense. You're like, well, we have a death of a child. Why is that not reported to the LCMS? And that's a great question for them. Again, it's something we can't answer, but it's just what they told us. They didn't want any people marked as reported who weren't baptized and confirmed and members there as well, to meet all four of those criteria: baptized, member, confirmed, and dead, to be reported in that category there as well. Okay, so now that we've covered the membership tab, we'll move on to the demographics tab. And the average age of confirmed membership, pretty straightforward. The average age of total membership, and we'll break down the percent of total membership by age and give you all of those errors at the end, basically unknown. We don't know when they were born. I guess I shouldn't say error, but generally you know the birth dates of your members. The system does, of course, allow you to add in members without birth dates there, but it will try to prompt you and to get that information in the system because it is reported to the LCMS. And then you can see that what the breakdown is really here, 35 to 49, and then under 15 are the two biggest categories there, which is good to see. And then attendance / enrollment. Oh, and demographics, you can also go ahead and see the information of all the people who qualified for that. And this is a great way if you think the numbers or the percentages are high or low, you can see which people contributed to that. And maybe you say, oh, Jason shouldn't have been in that. Jason is actually 35 or something. There was a mistake made in that regard. All right, now average enrollment and attendance. You can see average weekend worship attendance sits here and how it's computed. Average attendance by complete weekends, i.e. complete Saturday, Sunday sets, taken from event summary records. This is drawn in from the attendance module there. And then Sunday school enrollment that you have here across the various grades. And then vacation Bible school, if you track that as well, can also be reported. Financial data is pretty straightforward. You can see the receipts across all your funds. And of course, you can add and subtract those funds here, depending on which ones you want listed. Let's go ahead and mark them all on or all off. We'll just leave them all on for now. And see, it didn't change very much there. And the same thing for this. We'll just mark them all on. All right, and then the grand total receipts, and then all of your payments there as well. We listed. Now the Find Anomalies tab is wonderful because it gives you a top 10 potential anomalies that happened. And so if you know something wrong here but can't really pin it down, you might want to go through this list and say, do I have any unbaptized members? Do I have persons baptized before they were born, et cetera, et cetera? And then you can click Find Anomalies here. And once this loads, it will give you, basically, it will go down the top 10 for you and list them out. So you just go, okay, Deidre is an unbaptized member. She might be throwing off my statistics. Or maybe not. Maybe for whatever reason, she was never baptized. So it's really just a great way to go through and double check your work to make sure these are accurate and these aren't throwing off what you're reporting there. And then, of course, you can define the terms here as well. And there's the add the terms of missing button. Not used too much, but just know that this is here in case you do need it. You can, of course, call us or email us if you have more questions. Then let's save and calculate. Okay, so I messed up some of the financial orders, such as building fund. We'll say okay for that then. And it is saved. Okay, so now that we've done that report, the next report we'll need to run is the church statistics report. And this one is more useful as an internal report, as the other one was an external report you send out. Go ahead and select that here. And this is how you define a member in your specific congregation for the sake of this report. And there are quite a few combinations here. But if you do see someone on this report who shouldn't be, or don't see someone on this report who you think should be there, I would check this first. And then if this is correct, then you go to the record and see maybe the record is incorrect there as well. I do get quite a few calls about this report and why someone isn't or is showing up there. So the member option is marked. I mean, if they are members, that's a good start for defining members, though it's, again, something you can leave off. Maybe you just want to define members to everything else and see who has that member, who shows up and doesn't have this member option marked as opposed to who does. It's a good way to double check your list there. Baptized checkbox mark, so it's a member who's baptized, a member who's confirmed, a member who's baptized, confirmed, and taking First Communion. And now this participation is important to form the proper distinction of this, because if you say that participation is active, it will exclude everything but the active participations. For example, it will only look at active, it won't look at school, deceased, homebound, inactive, institutionalized, or military. But if you do participation is not inactive, it will look at everything but inactive. So there are good reasons to choose either one. This is the first time I really think that there's a really strong choice, a really strong argument to be made for choosing one or the other, or both. So just be very be very careful about which one you choose here. And then, of course, school list choose is not inactive. And then, of course, you mark them as received by the end of the year or not removed at the end of the year. So I'm going to check this one off here, but we'll say they have to be received as of the end of the year there. And then now we go on, we'll save our definition, and we'll do select reports. And let's do a report on persons received this year. And we'll include removed and deceased people in this report. Preview that, and it will show us all of the information about those people. And as you can see, we do have 2 pages with, well, the second page is really just a summary page. And we have John Abbott, all of his information, Deidre Benedict, all of her information, John Hall, etc. down the list there. And you can really dig into all those persons received if you want to do that report. You could also do a, let me see, a membership statistics report here, which is going to give you a breakdown for your church to look at, which will give you your total membership by male and female, percentage of people, adults versus children, age unknown, baptized, confirmed, first communion. This is a great way for your church to get a snapshot of what happened this year, broken down by sex, by age category, by members, non-members, baptized, confirmed, first communion. It's a really wonderful report to run, though there are more specific reports you can see here, and then you tell them how to define the members there. That's definitely a report that I would either print or export to a PDF, to Excel, to Word, etc. there for your church. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and got our 2 reports, the next thing we need to do is talk about the optional cleanup utility inside of Shepherd Staff. So what we have for this cleanup utility is to come here to Utilities and Cleanup. And you may have been wondering when I was going to talk about backups. This is right now. If you are not running this utility, I would make a backup at this point anyway, because you have made all of your major changes, run all of your major reports. It's a great time to back up and kind of solidify those changes before you start running utilities on your database. So we'll go ahead and say cancel, and close this out. And now we'll come in and make a backup of our database here. Say last location used. Though of course, if you choose the first option, it will just open up that file explorer and you can choose any location on your computer. Go ahead and choose the last location used, start backup. Presto, it's done. Okay, so we'll jump back into membership now. And now that membership is done, we'll go ahead and close this window and we'll run that cleanup utility here. So this cleanup utility is going to either permanently delete all temporarily deleted person records from the database. And an example of that would be, wrong one, trees, show tree. Went in here and went to John, went to show household, and you selected someone and hit the delete button. Then that would be a kind of a soft or temporary delete that could be undone. Once they have been temporarily deleted though, to permanently delete them, you come in here to clean up utilities and check this box there. And then you can also, or it's an and or, permanently delete removed people from membership, attendance, and contributions. And you can be very specific. You can say, I want only people who died on a specific date, or you can say, let's get rid of everyone. And then you can go ahead and say, do I want reports printed on these people, or do I not want reports? I would generally recommend printing out reports because if something does go wrong, you have the option of course, restoring that backup, but you could also just go ahead and manually put it in with the household and person record. It's completely up to you, and we'll leave the date range here, though just know that you can edit that date range. And then once we hit OK, it will give us just one last safety, just make sure we didn't accidentally hit the button, and we'll say yes. And then it will go through and delete everything. And it's done, presto. Okay, so you can now close that, and that is the cleanup utility. As I said, it's optional and not recommended because we only want you to run this if you have people who fit that category, and we want you to be sure that you only get the people that are necessary without getting any extra removed people. And that's why we had those options in there, which allow you to be very specific about which people are purged from the removed by there. So just be very careful about running this, and if you don't think you need to run it, just don't run it right now. It can always be run in a second, in a few days or something like that. All right, now that we're done with the cleanup utility, let's go ahead and talk about another optional item that we do recommend, and that is the promotion of students. And that utility is found up here, and it simply promotes students. And this screen basically says make a current backup of your database before continuing, as this will take all of your students in Sunday school grades and regular grades and move them forward once. Go ahead and close them here. Close this. We'll make our second backup today. And this backup is going to ensure that if anything goes wrong here, we won't have to undo all of our cleanup utility again. So say start backup. There we go. Come back into membership, and we'll open up the promote students utility, and we will clear the Sunday school section when promoting as well, and promote. And it's difficult to undo if you accidentally run it more than once a year, so we strongly recommend that you make a backup of your database before proceeding. And since we have done that, we can confidently say yes. And one last safety, make sure you didn't accidentally hit all these buttons here. We'll say yes, 4 students were promoted, and 2 Sunday school students were promoted in our database. It says, and if that number looks wrong to you, that's the point I would go through and roll everything back and restore that backup there. Should you need to restore a backup, we would come to Utilities, Database Backup and Restore, and come to the Restore tab here and just choose the most recent one. Or, of course, you can do Let Me Choose, and it will go ahead and open up that File Explorer there, and you can just sort by date and time if you'd like to. But it's completely up to you. Go ahead and close that, close this, and that's the promotion of students. In a nutshell, that is the membership module. I'm going to take a brief break here while I take a drink of water, but we'll be back in just a second to do Scheduler. Be back in a jiffy. All right, everyone, I'm back. Let's go ahead and delve into Scheduler, and then our review and our quiz and the Q&A session at the end. Now, Scheduler, by comparison, is very straightforward. And again, if you don't use Scheduler, completely ignore this section. It is not necessary to complete, though it won't hurt anything if you do it. It's very straightforward. All you do is open up Scheduler, and you go through and you purge events that are on or older than a date. And that is simply done by coming up here to Utilities and going to Cleanup. Oh, let me have to close this window here. All the windows have to be closed before you run any utilities. So Utilities, Cleanup, and then a backup of your database is recommended before running this cleanup utilities. We'll go ahead and say OK, cancel, and go ahead and make that backup here. And that will easily be used the last location. Start backup. There we go. Come into Scheduler and Utilities, Clean Up Utilities. And now we can confidently say yes, purge events, and you can choose when they're older by. Let's just say the end of 2017. That's perfect. There shouldn't be any in here because I've already run this utility, but we'll go ahead and say OK. Are you sure? Yes, we're sure. And they are purged. Just hit finished, and we're done. So by comparison, Scheduler is a much more straightforward module, just because it is a support module to the other 4, namely a support module to attendance and membership there, but it does have other applications as well. But year end, you don't have to worry about much. Just make sure you purge those old events, and then you're good to go. All right, so after that, we'll come in and jump into the review section here. Go ahead and pull that up, and we'll review the overarching themes that we discussed today for all the modules. And they were to perform the year end in this order: contributions, attendance, membership. Have to go in that order. Meaning you have to do contributions before you do membership. You have to do attendance before you do membership as well. If you only use contributions and membership, then you would do contributions first, you would skip attendance, and then you do membership. Now, scheduler and finance are their own software, scheduler being a support and then finance being its own set of rules for recording and year end. So those two can be done first, it can be done last, and it can be done not at all if you don't use them. So you could do scheduler, contributions, attendance, membership, and then finance at the end if you wanted to. Or you could do contributions, attendance, scheduler, membership, finance in that order if you would like. Just know that there is a very set order for contributions, attendance, and membership there, and you should be okay. The basic steps are update and enter all data. This applies to all of these modules, but for today specifically, membership, and that would be those birth dates, death, marriage, divorce, etc. would fall into that data. Also includes envelope numbers and posting batches, and that's more specific for contributions and attendance, but it's also true just to check that if you do have a deceased member in membership or a new member who's being added as well. Run any needed reports like your denomination specific statistical reports or your internal church statistics reports, and those are contribution statements and attendance comparison reports in the contributions and attendance modules. And then when you're reviewing, you need to make a new backup before completing each module's year-end task. And this will give you a fallback point if something is incorrect after running the year-end. And then you will complete the year-end task for a specific module, then check your data afterwards to verify any changes, then move on to the next one. And then make a backup when all of your year-end tasks are complete. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the quiz here. There are a few questions that are important to cover, so go ahead and ask the first one, which is true or false. When updating membership records, you should update received by, baptism, and confirmation information. And I would say that that's at a minimum, but it's definitely the question we're asked, so we'll go ahead and open that up and I'll wait for your answers there. While we're waiting, I'm just going to grab a quick drink here. All right, that was quick. Let's go ahead and open this up. And the answer is true. And let's go ahead. Updating membership data will help make your end of the year reporting more accurate. Make sure to update all the following. So birthdays, death, baptisms, confirmations, marriages, divorces, received by and removed by. And we covered most of those today, but this is definitely true. Make sure all this is updated before you proceed. And if it isn't, I would hold off until if you think you can update it in the very near future. The next true or false question is when a member transfers to a new church, I should mark them as a non-member inside of Shepherd staff. And is that true or false? And I hope that this question makes sense to you. If it doesn't, we'll definitely cover that here. I'll go ahead and open that poll and see the answers are. Give you a few seconds to answer that question there. All right, that was fast. Good job, everyone. This one is false. The person should be labeled as a removed member. You will want to edit their person record and give them a removed by reason and a removed by date. Be sure to leave their member status alone until you've generated all of your year-end reports. Of course, failing to do so will cause your reports to be inaccurate. Good job, everyone. All right, true or false? The cleanup utility can be used to delete people from the membership module. Go ahead and open this one to everyone. There we go. True or false? The cleanup utility can be used to delete people from the membership module inside of Shepherd staff. And I will mention about the cleanup utility is completely optional, depending on what your church needs to have done. So I wouldn't just run it because, but is it, what will it do if you do run it? Okay, and everyone's answers, we'll go ahead and pull up the results. Excellent. Okay, so it is true. You can use the cleanup utility to purge removed people from the database. This does also delete any attendance and contributions data associated with a removed person. Please use caution when running this utility and back up prior to starting this task. I would say if you do decide to run this, always back up before and back up after, just so you can avoid catastrophe there. Because I have gotten calls where I've had to give people the bad news that no, your information cannot be recovered. because there's no backup. So please back up your database. All right, and we have another true or false question here. Go ahead and open this one up to everyone. The inactivity report finds those who are not participating, attending, and or contributing. And this one, I don't think we touched on here. Oh, this one is for attendance. We'll go ahead and skip that one. It is true, and you may want to use this report to find those people who are no longer active in your church. We'll skip that because that actually shouldn't be in there. I apologize for that, folks. And that concludes the lesson and the quiz today. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will go ahead and respond to those now, and also go back to the questions we received in the questions box. And I would like to thank you so much for attending today's Shepherd Staff webinar, and I hope you enjoyed this session. There's our general phone number and email address listed on the screen. Please reach out to us if you have any questions that you don't want to ask to just me or my manager, or if you just want to go ahead and check out our website. You can go ahead and do that by going to cts.org for that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll go ahead and handle those questions. But for the sake of the broadcast, I will say thank you and goodbye.